I think they've got to finish this last game against Argentina really, really strongly. It'll be nice for them to round that out perfectly and, as you say, secure second position in the Rugby Championship, and that'll set them up really nicely and confidently for the end of season matches.
Welcome to the 7th episode of In the Know, brought to you by GIO and Sporting News. Again this week, we're joined by Wallabies great Nathan Sharpe. We're going to be talking a little bit about that fantastic Wallabies win on the weekend against the Pumas. And of course, this weekend again, we faced them. Nathan, 27-8, great win for us. What were your immediate thoughts?
Oh, look, just pride, I think. One of the things that we spoke about last week was the ability to back up, consistent performances and bank them up, and they did that in spades. And I think, right from the first, 4 to 5 minutes when Rhys Hoskins touched down, they put the Argentinians on the back foot and set the tone for the match. So just really excited by the way that they've started. Each time there's been pressure on them to perform well, they started well in those games and set the tone and continued to push it through the whole game.
Well, if you remember, we spoke about Rhys Hoskins last week, whether he was going to be that answer at 15 with Tom Banks out. And I think he silenced quite a few doubters, possibly including myself, with the performance over the weekend. Yeah,
look, he's a really steady pair of hands. And, I think I might have mentioned that, I thought Jordan, they should have given him a crack at the back there. But the way he played on the weekend, it'd be very tough to not pick him again for another game. And I think if you look at the way Dave Rennie's been picking the team, he'll give him another opportunity to perform as well as he did. So there's a reason that he's played. He must have played sort of close to 30 or 40 tests now, and that's because, there's some really innate qualities in him. And he showed that on the weekend. So credit to him. He had the opportunity, he took it with both hands.
Also wanted to get your thoughts on the back row. Now, we spoke a little bit about them as well last week, but it seems like incredibly effective at getting across the game line and really giving James O'Connor and Quade Cooper, when they're switching out, plenty of time in attack to do their best.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We spoke about last week the aggression from the carry and the way that they're getting over the advantage line makes all the difference to the backs out wide. And, Valentini's starting to really come into his own. I think that the Australian forward pack was very dominant on the weekend, and that's no mean feat, particularly against the Argentinian back row, who are very established and well regarded. So, that was an area of the game where Australia dominated again, and it just sets the tone for the people out wider and gives, as he said, the 10s space and time to make decisions, which, it makes playing football a lot easier. I'm assured by Stephen Larkham and the boys that I played with. Give them a bit more space and more time, and they make better decisions.
The Wallabies had 10 clean breaks compared to the Pumas 0. So even the harshest critic of Australian rugby would have to admit that the Wallabies right now are playing a pretty attractive brand of positive rugby.
Oh, absolutely. And, it'd be remiss of me to say that they look really cohesive in attack at the moment. It's on the back of good carries, simple plans that aren't too complicated or convoluted, outside of the set piece, kick-off pieces. The way that people are understanding their job is really starting to contribute to consistent attacking performance. But one of the areas that we haven't probably touched upon, or the public may not have touched upon too much, is the defensive work of the team. I think that the way that they've, shut down and nullified South Africa, who don't typically play an expansive game, but nonetheless, they do play a British game and they try and go through you. They stop them from doing that every single time. And then you get to the Argentinians, who can play expansively, and they cover them at all stages of that game. And they rarely look like scoring a try, apart from the one they scored from a rolling ball.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because the Wallabies are using that, if you want to call it a wick defence or a drift defence, they're really using the sideline well there as an extra defender, where you see they've got someone like a Len Ikitau, who's probably gone a little bit under the radar in terms of his defence. He's getting out there, super speedy. He's getting those one-on-ones with the opposition, forcing turnovers or forcing the opposition into touch.
Well, that's the beauty, isn't it? And I think you've hit that nail on the head, I think, Chris. Ikitau is providing the Wallabies an attacking centre that is incredible in defence. He's making really good decisions, and he has the capability physically to correct a poor decision by chasing those down. And if you look at the great teams over the years, Sterling Mortlock for Australia, Dan Herbert for Australia. Very good defensively in the centres there, and that allows comfort for those inside them that they're going to make a good decision and allow them to stick to their defensive patterns. And I think what you've seen is Matt Taylor's really got the team working cohesively across that, whether or not they're up and in and got good line speed, or if they're drifting out and pushing the teams to the sideline.
Last week, we did speak about the lineout, and you mentioned that you thought they still had significant areas to improve upon. Was there anything that you saw on the weekend which has changed your mind about where the Wallabies lineout is right now?
Oh, I thought they were improved in the weekend, but once again, I think combination is going to come down to it. And they're playing some tier one nations here who have very good set piece, both in attack and defence. So I do like the progression of Valentine. I think he's starting to operate more powerful in the lineouts, and I like that a lot of the moves they're trying to pull together off the back of those lineouts are starting to involve Taniela Tupou as well. I think you've got to get that man involved in any part of the game that he can. His power is immense, and get the ball in his hands. He's just got to catch it. That's all.
You're right. As always, Tupou was immense on the weekend. Are you expecting anything different from the Pumas this week?
Yeah, I think they need to start better. We touched on it at the start before the last game, and the Wallabies just were very, complete at the start, and they kind of disallowed the Argentinians getting emotionally involved in the game. I think for them, it's going to be a difficult one because they've been on the road for a long period of time. I know what it's like, particularly those teams from South America. They want to get home. They'll either have a game where I just don't think they'll front up, or they'll really want to make a statement and finish the tour, which has been pretty disappointing for them in some semblance of form. So for the Wallabies' sake, let's hope they want to get on a plane, but there's that potential they could turn up. And if they start that game, red hot, it'll give them the sniff, and they'll be right in it because they do have the skill and the capacity to put some of those games together.
Now, as much as we don't want to buy into the hype, the Wallabies are on a bit of a roll, 3 in a row. It's the first time it's happened since 2017. Looking ahead, we've got obviously the match this weekend, and then we've got the Japan test, and then we've got the 3 November tests. What do you see as the biggest hurdle coming up for the Wallabies?
Oh, look, I think they've got to finish this last game against Argentina really, really strongly. It'll be nice for them to round that out perfectly and, as you say, secure second position in the Rugby Championship, and that'll set them up really nicely and confidently for the end of season matches.
Nathan, thank you for joining us for the 7th episode of In the Know, brought to you by GIO and Sporting News. And to everyone out there, hope you got something out of that and enjoy the footy this weekend. Let's see if the Wallabies can get it done.